The Map of Open Source Science is a product developed out of NumFocus's Open Source Science Initiative. Much like how Google Maps created a user-friendly, interactive application that composes multiple layers to explore the physical world, MOS aims to create a user-friendly, highly composable, interactive application to explore the digital knowledge and research ecosystems. These are the questions we hear from our various potential users. These are the use cases we've so far explored and proven possible. This is what MOS currently looks like with all composable layers rendered, though the purpose of the map is not to create and visualize a registry of information. The purpose of MOS is to solve a user's problem defined by the user when they begin interacting with the map. For this demonstration, I'm an astrophysicist looking for the open source tools I can use in astrophysics, the tools that are often used alongside those original tools, the organizations to which those tools belong and those communities, as well as whether or not those tools produce papers, who's producing those papers by using these tools, and what organizations are supporting that research. I will also look for someone to reach out to in the community who might be able to better guide me to which tools I can use in astrophysics. So to begin, I will turn on my layers, beginning with organizations, projects, papers, and people. Now my first question is, which tools can I use in astrophysics? So I will immediately map projects to their subfields. And I will search for astrophysics. I will center my map on astrophysics, expand by one layer, and see these are the projects on the map that are used in astrophysics. I will see AstroPy as the biggest node, most likely to be useful to my situation. Now I'm curious if there's a community that AstroPy is part of that I can reach out to, and I know that fiscal sponsors are a fairly large anchor point in the open source community, so I will map projects to fiscal sponsors to see if AstroPy is part of a fiscal sponsor. I here see that AstroPy is part of NumFocus. I'm curious if NumFocus is a large community or a small community of only these projects, so I will see if they're connected to any other projects. I see that these projects are all part of NumFocus as a fiscal sponsor. Now I'm curious what these projects do, so I'll expand once more to see the domains of all these projects. I see they're largely data science projects, and it looks like associations are made with other domains of science, so this seems to be a science community with many projects under its wing, maybe something I should reach out to learn more. Now I will go back to the projects used in astrophysics and remove the fiscal sponsor connection. Now that I know that AstroPy is part of a larger community used in astrophysics, it is something that I might want to learn more about. I am now curious as to what other tools are used alongside AstroPy, so I will map complementary tools. And I will see that SunPy is often used with AstroPy, but now I am curious as to whether or not these projects produce papers in astrophysics, so I will map papers to the projects that they cite. I can now see that AstroPy does indeed produce papers. If I expand once more, I can see that SunPy also produces papers. Now since I know that I will be using AstroPy and SunPy, I no longer need these complementary connections, so I remove them from the map. And now I'm curious as to what people are producing the papers that are using AstroPy and SunPy, so I'll map authors to the papers. I can now see that these people are using these projects to produce these papers, as well as these other open source tools that I might be interested in learning more about. Now I am curious as to what affiliations these authors have, what institutions are supporting astrophysics research that uses open source software, so I'll map authors to their affiliated organizations. I can now see that these authors are affiliated with these organizations out here, and so on. I am now curious as to what funding agencies are supporting this type of research, so I'll map papers to their granting organizations. I can now see that this paper was funded by these two organizations. Now I'm curious as to whether any people who produce these papers also work on the software, so I will map people to the projects. I'll narrow my focus back to the two projects I'm interested in, AstroPy and SunPy, and I will see that there's a paper here in the middle where there's a person connected to that paper that also seems to contribute to all projects here. Jiminy T. Cricket is someone I might want to reach out to who has authored a paper using the open source tools I am interested in. So with this knowledge, I am now armed to begin my exploration of the open source space with people, organizations, projects, and communities.